Alrighty, guys, check it out. So Apple's earnings just came out after the bell today, and I'm actually filming this video pretty late. It's currently about 9:30 p.m., so the aftermarket action all played out. We can see all the volatility here after the bell, so let's just dive into it. You guys can see Apple closed at about, let's see, $165 a share. Yeah, it went down 1% on the day in anticipation of these earnings, and once the earnings came out, you guys can see the stock went from 165 all the way to 171.50. Then we retraced. We actually gave back a lot of that gain. If I zoom in, you guys will be able to see. So again, we closed at 165, shopped to 171.50, pulled back. We retested that old resistance from the pre-market or aftermarket rather, and right before the close, right around 166, we held that point and the 50 SMA here on the intraday, and we pretty much rode that for the rest of the aftermarket session. You guys can see we let's see, where are we at right now after the bell? Well, actually not right now because it's 9:30, but when the markets aftermarket ended at 8 p.m. Let's see, we closed at about 170 or ended off at 170 at 8 p.m. So Apple is looking very strong here. Percentage-wise, it's up around 2.7% after the bell. And of course, in the morning, I mean, these gains could be reversed for all we know. But it's up now roughly 5%, a little bit more than that. And on the 4-hour chart, you guys probably know we have this inverse head and shoulders, the left shoulder here, the head, the right shoulder. That's pretty much played out. I called that weeks and weeks ago. And now we're starting to take out the highs from the middle of September, being around, let's see, where was that? $165. We took that high out. We closed above it. Now after the bell with that big pop after earnings, we're moving above it, right? Now we're approaching 170, which you guys can see that was the high from the end of August of 2022, right? You can see that point right here. So I might as well set my alert at 171, and that's actually right where we hit after the bell when the earnings initially came out. So, I mean, not only is it resistance from earlier in the aftermarket, but also from back in the end of August, So, listen, guys, I'm telling you, if Apple breaks 171, we could see another move up, probably a couple bucks to 176. That was the high from the middle of August, and maybe it goes past that point. Time will tell. So they ended up doing, let me see here, they ended up doing EPS. Let's try and find it here, guys. They did $1.52 EPS versus the $1.43 estimate, so that beat, and they also beat on sales. They keep on beating, guys. I feel like I've never seen an Apple miss. Of course, they've missed before, but I can't remember the last time they've missed. So they beat EPS, and they beat on revenue, $94.8 billion versus $92.96 billion estimated. And it looks like here wearables, home and accessories revenue was $8.76 billion. Their net was $24.16 billion. iPad revenue $6.67 billion. And we have here iPhone revenue, of course, is a big chunk of that revenue, $51.33 billion. And a lot of their sales, of course, came from services as well. Revenue $20.91 billion from services. And let me see how it broke down in the different regions in terms of revenue. So Greater China revenue, $17.81 billion there. We can see America's revenue, of course, $37.78. That's going to lead the categories. Japan, $7.18 billion. Rest of Asia Pacific, $8.12 billion. Is there Europe? Here it is, $23.95 billion out of Europe in terms of revenue, and they actually raised their dividend. All right, there we go. So what was it before? It looks like here they raised it to 24 cents. What was it before? Oh, 23 cents. All right, guys, 23 cents to 24 cents. That's probably what? I mean, a 2% raise, whatever the heck that is. But either way, they raised it. And of course, you're not investing in an Apple stock for the dividend. I mean, nobody is. Maybe for the potential of a larger future dividend, sure. I mean, there's a big possibility down the road. We're talking 5, 10, maybe longer than that, 15 years, maybe more than that even, that Apple's going to pay a big chunky dividend. Right now, it's got to be what? Let's say they pay $1 a year on a $165 stock price. That is way less than 1%, way less than 1% dividend. But at some point, they might have it to 3%. Maybe when their business starts to slow down and they can't reinvest, well, I mean, they could reinvest in the business, but maybe if they get a better return by just giving their money out to shareholders as a dividend, maybe it's better for them to do that at some point in the future than reinvest in the business. But right now, of course, their dividend's low because they're reinvesting in the business. They're still growing, and there's a bright future ahead for Apple. Although, of course, they'll have their challenges, which we're not going to get into in this video. I think they do have, personally, I've mentioned this before on the channel, I think they do have an innovation problem. I don't know. I mean, I feel like what's the next thing going to be for Apple? We don't know that yet. I mean, that's the thing. And of course, the iPhone's great and all, but each year the improvements, in my opinion, are very minuscule. Sure, the camera gets better. All right, great. You can take some better pictures, but at some point, it's going to get as good as it can get. I mean, sure, it's always going to improve little itty-bitty things here and there in terms of the camera, but people that are just average Joes, right, that aren't photographers, they're not going to notice it. Either way, the camera's going to be good, and that's good for most people. And that's what I feel like their main selling point is when they get the new iPhone. Oh, it's a better camera. But at some point, guys, there has to be the next thing for Apple, and I just don't know what that is yet. I don't even know. Well, I'm sure they're cooking something up behind the scenes, but Apple at this point, they're a great company, the biggest company in the world, but what is history? Well, maybe not in the world. What's the biggest company in the world? I forget what the heck it's called, but it's the biggest company in the U.S., and you got to realize at some point, looking at history, the biggest companies don't always remain the biggest companies. Think about it. 20 years ago, and I'm not trying to be a bear here. I'm just being realistic, right? 20, 30 years ago, look at the top companies back then compared to the top companies now. Completely different. And it's probably going to be the same, in 30 years from now, 20 years from now. And I'm not saying Apple's going to go bankrupt or anything like that, but there might be bigger and better companies. That's all I'm saying, and Apple might. The growth will slow down at some point, and they might become irrelevant at some point. Who knows? Nobody can really tell the future. I mean, BlackBerry, I know this is not maybe the best example, but who would have thought 15 years ago BlackBerry would be what it is today? Sure, they're still operating, but nowhere near where they were, when everybody and their grandma had a BlackBerry, right? I mean, that's the reality, guys. So, yeah, I mean, that's a quick little rundown on the earnings. Let's see. I think Tim Cook made a statement. Let me pull up the investor relations tab very quickly, guys. And by the way, if you have not gone up to 15 stocks yet for Moomoo, what are you waiting for? Use that link down below. Once you open up an account, you get 1 free share of stock. And listen to this. If you deposit at least $100, you get 4 more shares, totaling 5 free shares of stock. And if you deposit at least $1,000, guys, you get 10 more stocks, totaling 15 free stocks. So if you guys want some free money and you want to help out the channel, use that Moomoo link down below. It's greatly appreciated, guys. And with that being said, let's take a look at this statement here from good old Mr. Tim Cook. So he said, "We're pleased to report an all-time record in services and a March quarter record for iPhone despite the challenging macroeconomic environment, and to have our installed base of active devices reach an all-time high," he said, and I'm sure that was during the call, right? "We continue to invest for the long term and lead with our values," or maybe he just made a statement. Either way, "We continue to invest for the long term and lead with our values, including making major progress towards building carbon-neutral products and supply chains by 2030, and our year-over-year business performance improved compared to the December quarter, and we generated strong operating cash flow of $28.6 billion while returning over $23 billion to shareholders during the quarter." And of course, that's from the little dividends and, of course, share buybacks. And that's what Luca Maestri said, who's Apple's CFO. "And given our confidence in Apple's future and the value we see in our stock, our board has authorized," and here goes Siri talking to me on funny enough, an Apple device. Oh, Jesus, guys, I got to take this watch off. Maybe throw it in the water to make it shut up. Actually, no, wait, it's waterproof. Never mind. Either way, guys, he said, or she said here, "Given our confidence in Apple's future and the value we see in our stock, our board has authorized an additional $90 billion for share repurchases, and we also are raising our quarterly dividend, yada, 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 for the 11th year in a row." Okay, 24 cents. Okay, that was a 4% increase. I think I said 2%. Either way, whatever. So they're raising their dividend by a little bit, but still, it is a very small dividend compared to other, of course, larger paying dividend companies out there that have a 3, 4, 5% yield. Maybe one day Apple does get that, but right now they just simply they don't. And the fact that their services category hit an all-time high, $20 billion revenue, that's huge, guys, considering that was such a big focus for them years ago, and now it's grown a lot. I mean, if I remember correctly, they did 50-something million dollars in iPhone sales, $20 billion in services. That's creeping up to the iPhone sales. Obviously, it's not really, it's not 100% right behind it, but it's creeping up there, guys. It is getting close. That gap is closing a lot closer compared to what it used to be, right? So at this point, guys, I'm in Apple. I'm not sure if I don't think I mentioned that in this video, but I've owned Apple for years, literally a long time, probably close, maybe not a decade. I mean, probably not that long, but I've owned Apple for a good 6-7 years, probably since 2016. 17. I remember when I was buying it back then, it was $90, but that was before a bunch of splits. I think they did like 3 split, maybe not 3. Maybe they did a split or 2. Since that point, I forget exactly when they've done the splits, but either way, you guys can probably see it right here. Yup, let me show you this year. This is when they did the split. No, that was in 2020. It was way before 2020. Let me see here, right? 2014 maybe. No, it was a little bit after that. Either way, I've been in Apple for quite some time, and I've trimmed it. This is one that I've mentioned to you guys a lot that I think, even at these levels, is pretty overvalued. Last time I trimmed it was, I believe, back... Actually, I might have trimmed some a couple weeks ago, months ago, I forget. But for sure, I trimmed back in August when we hit that 175 peak. No joke, guys. I trimmed right at the top. I timed it. You don't usually do that. A lot of the time you don't time the top, but in this case, I did. Then it dropped all the way to 124, and I might have even nibbled a little bit of Apple down there. So the way I look at it is, I'm always going to hold Apple, but when it gets overvalued, I'm not scared to trim a good chunk of it and take some profits off the table because my average cost is a lot lower, guys. I mean, I forget exactly what it is off the top of my head. I don't check my long-term accounts every day, guys. I rarely do, honestly. I just buy. When I watch the charts every day, obviously, and when I see it get to a level that I'd want to buy more, I log in, boom, buy more in my long-term account, right? I'm not checking it every day obsessively like some crazy people out there. I'm not calling you crazy, but I don't personally do that. But overall, I've trimmed it. I've added a little bit more, but ultimately it's a holding in my portfolio that I don't plan on getting rid of completely unless anything crazy happens, fundamentally speaking. Like, I don't know, the iPhone gets discontinued or something, or there's a clear iPhone competitor that's going to take a lot of the market share. That in that case, maybe I'd reevaluate. I don't know. I'm just throwing things out of left field. But either way, guys, that's pretty much it for the video. Just wanted to quickly go over Apple's earnings and break down the chart. And let me see actually the max chart very quickly. I almost forgot. Actually, the 3-year chart. Let's pull it up because you all probably remember all-time high on Apple is 182. We're getting there. We're at 170, guys. We're about $12 off. We're, in other words, 7% off. So this could be breaking out any day now, technically, even though I think it's overbought, overvalued. I think it could still, momentum could still push through, even if it is overbought. That's the reality of the matter, even if it is overvalued. So what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Don't be shy to hit that like button. Hit that like button, guys. Subscribe, and don't forget to check out, all the links down below, the Patreon. But I'm about to sneeze, guys. Holy crap. Oh, man. The Patreon and the Moomoo link, the Weeble link, all that stuff's down below. You get up to 15 stocks from Moomoo and 12 stocks from Weeble. And if you want to check out, again, the Patreon, you get all the access to the Discord chat, the Patreon portfolio. You get to see my charts and ideas throughout the day plus more. That's linked down below. I'll catch you guys later. I need to get some freaking sleep. I got a shower, guys. I'll see you later. It's almost 10 o'clock right now. I'll catch you in the morning.